Hey there, friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stopher Cavens. I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, and I'm happy you're here. So, the last time I did content, it was for a final US presidential election predictions, is what I want to call them. Um, all right. So, in case you've been living under a rock, we had elections happen earlier this week. And they went well. They went. All right. So I wanted to hop on here, do a little bit of content, make some more predictions, read the energy, and hopefully quell some fears. Um, Inevitably, it might stoke some fears. That's not, I want to make it clear, that's not my goal. That's never my goal. My goal is always to be authentic, to give the truth, to give my actual opinion of the energy, regardless of whether we like what's coming through or not. So I've received a lot of requests, a lot of questions this week about what's going on, what happened. Was the will of the people subverted? Subverted. Okay. Uh, and what's next, right? So I know the collective is unsettled. I can feel the unnerved energy. I can feel the fear, and I know that many of my subscribers were hoping for a different outcome. Even though I did predict a Donald Trump win, I'm not gloating. That's not necessarily, I'll say it again. I've said it many times. It's not necessarily what I wanted. It wasn't, I was kind of, I'm always in the middle when it comes to politics, or I'm off the field completely because it just isn't something I get excited about or get too worried about. Anyway, I am here to tell you, and I've said this before, Spirit says this, Spirit wants me to assure you that the United States, the people of the United States, the people of the world, we will be okay. It will be different. Many of us will not like some of the things that we experience, that we see, that we hear, uh, all the stuff, right? So I just want to, before I get into my predictions and projections, whatever you want to call them, uh, I'll say this again as well. I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear. I don't take pleasure in, saying things or making predictions or giving my opinion about energies that goes against what you want to hear. But I'm just always going to give it to you straight. So if you're looking for a reader or readings, predictions that match up what you're hoping to hear or what your desires are, regardless of whether you're right, left, in between, I may not be your guy. You may want to actually click out of this video, leave. And I say that not to be a jerk. I say that because I don't want people to feel uncomfortable. Okay. I'm trying to protect your feelings. You may want to unsubscribe if you have subscribed, because I'm not the guy that's going to tell you, hey, if I don't, of course, if I don't feel it, I'm not going to say something just to keep you subscribed or just because I want to make you feel good. I'm also not going to say something just because I want you to make you feel bad either. That's not what I do here. I'm always going to say what I feel and that type of thing. Sometimes I have to predict outcomes and provide information that doesn't make me the most popular reader here on YouTube, but that's okay. I mean, in school, in high school, I was never popular, so I'm kind of used to it, right? Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of to say that because I don't want you to be here if you're not going to do well with what comes next, right? Anyway, with that said, let's get into the energy. And if you see me looking down, I take notes, because if I don't, the brain, especially once the camera kind of goes on, brain goes crazy, brain goes blank. So I am reading notes just to kind of keep things a little bit, moving forward, and me not rambling on and on and on about how I'm unpopular on YouTube, that type of thing. Anyway, so I have spent a lot of time this week in session with spirit. Some of it's meditation, so I can kind of clear out my own stuff, because that's part of what I do as an objective reader. Is I shut down the stoffer brain, the lizard brain, so to speak. That's one of the most important, in my opinion, things, kind of parts of reading. I'll say it, in my opinion, for a good reader, is to shut off what they want, what they think. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of that, because I am a human, you know, but I spend a lot of the time in meditation just trying to shut everything down. So we start there, and then we go into mindfulness. I don't do like remote viewing or any of this other stuff. That's not necessarily what I do. I just kind of really get to that place of shutting things down, getting mindful, and then it's all me and energy just kind of dancing, and there's pushing, there's pulling, there's feeling, smelling, tasting, hearing, seeing, all the stuff, right? I just welcome that in, and I just have that dance with spirit, with universal energy, angels, guides, whatever you believe in. For me, it's I've said this analogy before. It's the gumbo, right? So I just kind of scoop my spoon into the gumbo, and see what comes out. And anyway, I've done a lot of that this week, hours and hours in session with spirit. And I've got some information to deliver. So folks have written in to, and also, if because I will be doing more content, of course, but if you have questions, whether it's political or what's going on in the world, that type of thing, so non-personal, I have a different kind of protocol for personal questions. What is Johnny cheating on me, or how's this or that going? Am I getting the job? That type of thing. For more collective energy, world energy, U.S. elections, that type of thing, politics, just email me at, I got to remember, questions at stoffercavens.com. And you can visit my website, stoffercavens.com, if you'd like a personal reading to know if, there's a move coming up, or if you're getting the job, or how your relationship's going, what's next, so on and so forth. Personal private readings are available at stoffercavens.com. And my schedule's pretty light, so you can get in pretty quickly. All right, what else do I want to tell you? Yeah, questions at stoffercavens.com. All right. I'm going to give you, before we get into them, and many people have asked questions. I've got the information coming up. I promise we're going to get to predictions. Uh, I'm about to give you some information. Once again, we're getting into this thing where it's like, if you don't want to hear it, please leave, for your own good. Please leave. If you're subscribed to my channel and you only want to hear predictions and projections that fit your desired outcomes, uh, exit this content now and unsubscribe. Get out. You're not going, because if you're full on, everything needs to be Kamala wins, and everything's great, or Trump this, and that's not where we're at. That's not what's happening today. Okay. Um, there are other readers, regardless of where you fall politically, or that type of thing. There are other readers on YouTube that will provide you with the predictions that you're hoping for. So go ahead and find them. I may not be your guy, but if you want real, authentic, straightforward, stay. You're in for a treat. All right. Non-biased and objective is my thing. I'll shut up now. You are now, and let me see if I can pull up this. I made a graphic. I'm so proud of myself. We'll see. Maybe we find it. All right. So we're going to call this the objectivity zone. We're going to put a warning. I've also got a ticker at the bottom here, just to let anybody that may have scrubbed forward and not heard all my disclaimers. You are now in the objectivity zone. So you may hear things that you don't like. All right. Anytime you see this yellow and red, just if you're sensitive, you might not want to do it. All right. Previous predictions, I did predict that Donald Trump would win the election. I did predict that the Republicans would take the Senate. Now, I did predict that the Democrats would take the House, keep the House, take the House. It looks like that probably isn't going to happen. I think it's going to be close. I do think that there are plenty of seats, especially here in California, that will be won by Democrats. It will be close, but this isn't a prediction, but it looks with my own eyes and ears here. It looks like the Democrats will not take control of the House of Representatives. All right, but what stood out to me was, and I guess kind of when I realized that my prediction with Trump was, of course, I mean, I felt that I felt pretty confident about it. It wasn't as close as I had also predicted. So we didn't have to get into some of the shenanigans that may or may not, have taken place afterwards. But I knew when those early numbers started coming in from my home state of Indiana, we knew Indiana was going to go red, right? That wasn't really something that anybody thought was up for grabs. But I noticed that the numbers compared to 2020 were higher for Trump. So I knew that kind of, and I think the same with Kentucky, although I can't really remember. With Indiana, I was like, oh wait, that's much higher. It was like 5 or 6 points compared to what it was just 4 years ago. And then we got into Florida, and what was it, the county where Miami is at? I think that usually goes blue, and it was heavy, pretty heavily red. So I just knew the way that was kind of trickling in. Of course, these are states that we expected to be going for Donald Trump, but the way that the numbers were coming in, and the numbers themselves were indicative of what happened the rest of the night. For me, anyway, that was kind of, I just knew it. All right. So many of you want to know if there's Russian interference, outside interference with the election, if there's been some kind of cheating that gave Trump and Republicans the win. All right. Did Elon, I'm hearing all these questions. Did Elon use technology to cheat? How did Trump win? He got more votes. And I'm not trying to be flippant, but I, can I say definitively there was no cheating? No, no. If there was, and a few people would know, but I don't have that energy. I spent a lot of time in session with this, asking, trying to find that energy, and I couldn't find it. Were there inappropriate conversations? Maybe some deals and things that happen. Yeah, and I actually get that on both sides with Democrats and Republicans. I mean, people were doing uh, what they needed to do to give them the best outcome. Was there major cheating that would have changed the outcome either way? I don't have that. Did Elon use some kind of satellite technology? I don't have that. All right. So my guides say no. My guides say no. And what happened was, and when I get into the energy of the electorate, now, when you're reading big energy, we'll call this big energy, right? The energy of the entire country and people that uh, are able to vote. And I know a lot of you connected with Kamala, a lot of folks that, and blue blood Democrats and that type of thing loved Kamala. But the majority of independents, I'm having a hard time kind of getting that connection. So what I'm trying to say is the energy is telling me that they didn't connect with Kamala the way they would hope to. They would get them over the line to excite them to go out and vote. A lot of people did stay home. Okay, for that reason, not because obviously they decided I'm not doing Trump, but full transparency, I was one of those people. I voted, but Kamala did not get my vote, right? So I basically, for all practical purposes, sat that out. Now I'm in California, so she got my electoral votes anyway. But a lot of folks, they weren't voting for Trump, but also they just stayed home because Kamala didn't connect in that way where it felt personal. It felt like that. Sorry, just going through my notes here. It's just the way it was presented, that she was presented. She just didn't get there it's like personal. It feels personal, like that she didn't make that personal connection, right? Now, some of you that felt that personal connection with her, you're going to say bullshit. She's very personal, and it was great. That's your opinion, right? I can tell you my opinion is different. She didn't get me over the finish line. I wanted her to, but I just and kind of what comes in next is, and when you can't get there, it's like trust. It's like you can't trust. You don't know who she is. You don't know what she's really about. She's saying all these things, but there's something that just doesn't kind of click. All right. The country also needed a change. I don't think you have to be psychic to know this or understand this. When it came to economy, when it came to security, border, the media is telling us this was a big thing. The energy is telling me that was a big thing. And beyond, it's funny how like my eyes and ears will hear and my brain will understand something. And then when I get into session with spirit, it tells me the same thing. Like, oh, it kind of guides me there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I thought that already. So when Kamala Harris she did an interview on The View. I think this was now maybe a month ago or so, maybe a little more. But she said so, and when I heard it, I thought what Spirit told me just the other day. That lost her the election. And it's when they asked her if there was something from the Joe Biden did or that administration did that she would change or do differently. And she said, I can't think of anything. That right there is when so many people, when she like officially hitched her wagon to everything. That's spirit tells me, and my brain already told me that's what lost her the election. That's when it kind of went off the rails. Another thing where there's big energy is Trump and the Republicans were running ads. They were extremely effective, and they were ran during professional sporting events on television and streaming events. And they really, I mean, they were geared more towards men, but I think they actually had a big impact on everyone, different races of people, different demographics. It really was, and that they knew that they were working because they were for a straight month or two. That same ad was played. I think it was about the last month actually. Any National Football League game that was streamed or on TV, NBA games, baseball, the World Series, they spent a lot of money and I think it paid off for them. I think that was another thing. So The View and then those TV commercials. They worked. That's what Spirit said. They worked. All right. Will Joe Biden take action? Will Joe Biden do something that changes the election or slows down or changes when or if Trump gets inaugurated? No Biden actions. So there's nothing brewing as I can feel it now. Actually, I feel like there's more of like what's brewing here is him coming out and reiterating, because I know he did it the other day where he says, nothing wrong with the election. We lost, you know, let's move forward. Let's keep fighting for what we believe, but we move forward. He's going to do that again. Actually, there's more energy towards him kind of quelling any kind of beliefs against the election being free and fair. So he will come out. My prediction is he will come out and further and kind of go further with what he's already said, which is nothing to see here. All right, investigations. So with that, from his office, there will be no investigations, is what I'm being shown, and I don't have any other than little kind of different precincts and different states, maybe looking into some procedural things that were done wrong, and just which is normal. I think that that happens every election cycle. But no, I don't have any investigations on a big level that would make us kind of start to question. I know some people are already questioning it, but on that level, I don't. So I'll just leave that there. No investigations, no major federal investigations. All right, Donald Trump and JD Vance, they will be inaugurated as scheduled. There is no delay in. So is it January 20th? Pardon me. Pardon my ignorance, but yeah. So if it's the 20th or whatever day it's slated for, that's when it's happening. There's no energy that shows me. I don't get that big blocker energy that would show me that there's something present currently. I'm gonna stop messing with that cap. Currently, that would derail that. So for folks that aren't happy with the outcome, this is once again, this is why we're in the objectivity zone. That's why there's a warning on the screen right now, because I know some of you don't want to hear it, but he's the president. He will make it, and he will make it. He will be alive. All right, all right. Let's get into okay. So some of the other questions about like, bear with me. I'm just kind of looking through my notes to make sure I didn't forget something or skip over something, because that's what I do. I told you, once I get on here, the brain gets worse than it is just normally. All right. All right. So when Trump gets into office, he's, and he's likely going to have both the Senate and the House. So he's going to enact whatever he promised. He's going to get a lot of it. All right. At least at first. At least at first. I've got a lot of progressive, and I don't say that like progressive, like I'm a progressive and I believe in progressive polities. I'm talking about progressive energy. I get a lot of progressive energy where things move forward. Okay. Once again, I know a lot of you folks are going to think the things that move forward are actually taking steps backward. That's I'm just saying that he's pushing forward his things that he wants to put into place will move forward. Okay. Specifically, let's talk about deportations and immigration. Now, this is something where Donald Trump does not speak to me. There's a lot of things. I won't get too deep into my opinions about him. I don't trash him. I'm not that. You can find other channels for that. But when it comes, immigration is a big thing for me. It's and I live here in LA, and just I'm married to somebody that's an immigrant, so I just see it differently, and the things he says, I don't, I don't like. So this is a big thing for me, but we're going to talk about it. The deportations and immigration, how that's going to go. He's going to declare this, and this is already brewing. This is already kind of and on the table. Is what I want to say. When I talk to Spirit, they tell me this is already on the table. This is going to be pushed across the table. A state of emergency. He's going to declare the border, and I think he's done that. I think fly. He did this in his last go around where he wanted the border wall paid for, and he declared a state of emergency so he could get funds to kind of start that before budgets were changed and that type of thing. That's what's going to happen, because the deportation that he wants to do is crazy expensive. The logistics are, looking at this energetically, massive. It's massive. I don't think it's going to take place on the level that, when he says millions and millions or whatever the case is, a million a year. I don't think it's that. I will say this. I don't think it's that. And he will tell you that it is, though. Right. He will put into the media, he will have his team kind of cook the numbers. So we will be told. We might even have numbers from agencies that look real, but they're cooked a little bit. So this is kind of what he's going to be doing. He will declare a state of emergency so that he can get the funding and kind of get this going quickly. Big budgets, a lot of money, for the conservatives, how they're so fiscally responsible. They will spend a lot of money on this. Okay, they don't want to do it for government programs or social programs, but to get people out of the country, they will do it. It will, and like I said before, it's a constant. The next 2, 3, 4 years will be constantly battling the narrative, the media narrative. We'll get into media. It's going to get. I think it's going to get ugly, in my opinion. But this administration will be battling the narrative of how that whole deportation thing is going. So it gets murky. It gets a little messy. It probably for a lot of us will be infuriating. We won't like it. Be confusing because we won't know what to believe, and that it's kind of the point. Um, I don't like this one either. So Spirit told me that, and I think he's said this, but I always want to confirm with Spirit is like, was this just a campaign promise that he's not, he just thought he would get more votes for, or is this something that he's really connected to? There's a connection to this, and I'm where many of the protected statuses that many of our immigrants here in the country enjoy, specifically like what I think Springfield, Ohio, they're eating the cats and the dogs. Those folks are here legally, but a lot of those and other protected, asylum people that are here on different types of protected statuses, those will be given a drop dead date. So those will be revoked. It's not like an overnight thing, but there will be like a date. And then I don't really know what the remedy that they'll put out there is. I don't know that they know at this moment, but basically it's like, okay, your protected status is ending, and then and I don't see that they're going to allow a path for them to either get it back or some other protected status or that type of thing. So that's going to be messy. So a lot of protected statuses for immigrants will be revoked and given a drop dead date. I don't know how far in the future they'll give them, if it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, I don't know. All right. There will be very quickly a extensive immigration bill that will go through Congress. It's most likely to get passed. I know we've got both the Senate and the House, so but I just think it's already working to where this will get passed, and it is going to change how people come into this country and migrate to this country for a very long time. I want to say even like a decade or more. I almost feel it's like Spirit will stop me if I'm about to say a word that doesn't fit. And as I said, if I want to say the word decades, for decades, it will change how people migrate. I don't necessarily get stopped. My brain says that doesn't make sense, but we'll just say this. Spirit's allowing me to tell you that it's going to change it for a long time. Asylum is going to be next to none. These protected statuses are going to be wiped out. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for people to migrate to this country. Now, we can, it's a whole nother topic of how that affects our economy and that type of thing. I think that will shake out probably a couple years down the road. But at first, I think a lot of people are going to be happy about this. It's going to be, and that's why people, one of the reasons people voted for him, because he kept telling them that these people are coming here, they're killing you, they're raping you, they're eating your animals, that type of thing. Travel bans. There will be the travel bans. I think like 20 countries, right? Of course, there'll be lawsuits and that type of thing. It'll go to the Supreme Court and whatnot, but there will be travel bans, and all of this combined, and just how he kind of will interact with different countries and foreign policy. As of now, as U.S. citizens, for us passport holders, our passport is one of the most powerful passports and luxurious passports in the world, because for many countries, we don't have to get tourist visas if we want to go to, Thailand or England or somewhere to visit for vacation. That's going to change. We'll be like a lot of countries where you do have to get a visa just to pop over for a few weeks, or traveling there will be harder. It will take longer and be more expensive. Countries are not going to play as nice with the United States because of some of these things that with immigration, travel bans, and that type of thing that are enacted. So the U.S. passport will lose its luster, is what Spirit tells me. So for all you travelers out there, do it now. Because here within it's just going to get harder and harder and more difficult, and other countries aren't going to welcome us as much. All right, women's rights. This is a big one. I know this is why a lot of folks were voting for Kamala Harris. It's going to remain with the states as long as I can see. I'm not going to put a number of years on here, but until further notice. What's the anyway? A long time. It's going to remain with the states. There will be for the next, at least 4 years, for as long as Trump's in there. I get this push and pull energy with states and how they're going to be like each state is really going to kind of get its identity with enacting. Of course, blue states are probably going to be super liberal with their laws, and then the red states are going to really kind of be more restrictive. So there's a pull with enforcing and not enforcing bans and limitations. And I think the federal government is kind of in this. It just feels like there's a really messy stew. If we're going with the food analogy again, what's a messy stew? That's weird. The flavors don't quite. They're never going to get there. As much as you stir, it just kind of everything kind of doesn't really work. The next 4 to 8 years will be filled really with state governments and their constituents battling over legislation. And some states will go pretty far with it. You're going to have your Arkansas and your Texas and your, whatever, that go really, really far and with overreach into, data, women's. I don't know. I couldn't get quite with energy, I couldn't get quite to the point where we're talking about uh, opening up the medical records and reaching your hand into that. I know a lot of you are kind of fearful of that. I couldn't quite get there with it. Doesn't mean it's not something that could happen in the next couple of years, but I didn't have that energy yet. So I don't think that's activated. If it does happen, it's not quite activated yet. So hopefully that's good. I don't know. There's nothing present. Yeah, that's kind of what it was. There's nothing present about new laws regarding access to data, women's medical records, etc. I do feel like what I got was the federal government. Here I am reading my notes again, so bear with me. Will enact, and I want to say attempt, but I actually think that it will pass because they're not stopping me when I say enact legislations that challenges the laws in some states, specifically like states that are more liberal with their laws. So there will be federal legislation that kind of feels restrictive. So it does restrict state laws, unfortunately. So, and we're going to get to kind of how this new administration interacts with states because that's going to get ugly. All right, but before then, we're going to go into the wars. I had a lot of people email me about the wars. Is there going to be a World War III? How, the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, will they end anytime soon? All right, no world war. I'm not predicting a world war, but I will say this, and we'll talk about Gaza and Ukraine. There are other areas that will kind of rise up also as hotspots. It feels like a powder keg. I mean, it's almost like, could there be? Yeah, I'm not predicting a world war, but there's definitely once again that recipe for some stuff. And so the word that Spirit wanted me to use was no world war, but a powder keg. So it could blow up. It could. There's just a creation of a little bit of uncertainty and different things that are happening outside of what's happening in the United States and what Donald Trump may say or do that pisses people off. But there's already, of course, some undercurrents in different areas, specifically, in Eastern Europe, Asia, and Africa, Northern Africa as well. There's some undercurrents of some problems. So hopefully, we of course we may not like Donald Trump, but hopefully he can keep it together and his people. All right, Gaza will end next year. All right, Gaza and Ukraine both will continue on. There will be conflict, whatever you want to call it, for the remainder of this year. Uh, Gaza and Israel will end next year. I feel like earlier in the year, and then Ukraine a little bit after. So with that, I don't have a lot of specifics, but what they're telling me is bargaining with the Ukraine and Russia is already happening. So this it does involve resources, it involves money, it involves power, it involves technology. I think Elon and the technology is bargaining with Russia specifically. So a little shady. It doesn't feel like it's completely on the up and up, and it feels like it's some stuff being hidden. Of course, now we can have different opinions about whether we're okay with that or not. I think some stuff will come out later about maybe that not being so great, and what we gave up and what we promised and that type of thing. But I'll say this: two wars ending, that's good. So I guess the rest of it we'll see of why they ended and if that affects us down the road. If that bites us in the ass later. Free speech. This is another one, with the immigration that kind of is big for me. So, and I kind of was talking about this on my live the other day. I popped on for like a half an hour, and this came up. This came up in one of my sessions. Is Trump, as it has to do with like controlling media, because we know he hates the media. It Part of his policy, a big part of his policy, is not done through legislation. We all know that, right? It's done through media. It's done through social policy and public kind of how he, even when it comes to like immigration, a lot of how he stems immigration is through messaging. It's through a big, that wall is not really. I mean, you can go around the wall, you can go under the wall, you can go over the wall, but it's a symbol to say you're not welcome here. His tweets, fear, basically making people feel like, hey, if I go there, it's not going to be so great for me, right? There are going to be people that hate me, that think that I'm eating cats and dogs. So a lot of his policy is done through messaging, right? That's what he did in his first term. Is not a ton of legislation was passed, but a lot of, you know, what do we want to call it? Social policy, that type of thing. So, but he will try to rework and circumnavigate the FCC in order to kind of control and streamline media, certain media, not all. It doesn't feel blanket to me, but that's the prediction here, is that he will kind of get involved, which the federal government should not be involved or overstep into the And I kind of had to look it up because I wasn't sure how that all worked. And I'm not going to explain it. You can look it up too, but basically there are procedures and protocols, and he's going to kind of push the limits there in a very you might call it extreme way, in order to control some sectors of the media, prevent certain types, because they're bringing the energy in, so specific types of information commentary from being disseminated. Constant battle with the media, constant, just like last time, but this is it's a little more, because I feel like he's done this before, so he's going to have a little bit of a better idea of how to do it, and he feels a little bit more emboldened to kind of take it a step further. Lots of lawsuits, media suing government, vice versa. So this will be very litigious as well. Litigious. All right, hooked on phonics. So that will be fun. That will be fun. And once again, some of you watching may think that's a good thing. I'm not judging whether it's good or not, but it will be a thing. As I alluded to earlier, the states. This was interesting to me because this also is you know fight night kind of energy. So blue states will be at war with the federal government. It's already happening. You've got in my state, Gavin Newsom's already getting the legislature together, lawmakers, and saying, "Hey, we need to batten down the hatches, so to speak, so that we can keep our liberal laws and policies in place to protect our liberal, what they believe are our liberal people, right?" Uh, so there's going to be a battle. It's going to be pretty rough. California, New York, different states, Minnesota. Anyway, and federal funding. One of the ways that the new administration, and Trump specifically, will kind of try to affect state, um, how states run, how governors run their states basically, is federal funding. Federal funding will be used as quid pro quo. It will be used as a bargaining chip, like it has never before. I'm sure there are laws against that. I'm sure that's not, but I think Donald Trump's going to take it a step further, right? So that will be fun. People will move because of all this kind of division with state government, federal government, blue states, red states. A lot of people will move from states because of state laws. They'll people moving out of blue states, people moving into blue states, red states, same thing. Because of how state laws, economies, and federal funding shifts. So this is what I heard, and I didn't love hearing this, but Spirit, when I was in this energy, said this is the modern Civil War. It's not done with guns, muskets and swords like it was last time. It's done in this way where we just kind of separate, which is really sad in my opinion. And I think that we won't get into like future elections and stuff, but I do think that kind of affects and is a catalyst for some changes when it comes to electoral colleges, how states participate in elections, that type of thing. That even political parties, I'll do a whole nother content for that because that also seems very disrupted to me. I want to make clear, I think we will continue to have elections. I just think they'll be done differently. I know that's a fear of some folks, so I don't want to stoke that. I have no energy that says elections will stop happening or that we will have a dictator. I'm not going that far. I think some of that's the media has kind of stirred that up. That just doesn't feel accurate to me. So I'll leave that there. All right, what else we got? All right, Don's legal stuff. It all just goes away. Goes away. They said that it goes away. New York convictions will be overturned, which I thought that was interesting as well, because when I did back in January, I did my 2024 predictions, and I predicted that only one trial would get underway, one of the not including the civil trials, but the legal, whatever, the criminal trials. And that was correct. One did, but I also predicted that there would be no convictions before the election. That was wrong. There were 34 in that one trial that did get underway. So where I was correct with the number of trials that got underway, which I don't think many people would have predicted that at the time back in January, but that felt correct to me. So that was my opinion. It was right. The convictions part was wrong. I was wrong about that. But as I get into the energy now with him winning, and a lot of people think, oh, well, they'll just suspend everything. I actually have within a year, those convictions will be gone. And I know that he can't pardon himself from state crimes or whatever. But for some reason, I'm seeing those actually overturned. Don't know. So for all of you were hoping that he would be in jail, I never saw him in jail anyway. But anyway, Don's health. I predicted also back in January that he had some major health things. I stand by that. I know not a lot came out other than cognitive stuff. He's, saying weird things. He's, dragging. I saw somebody saying, "Did he have a stroke?" He's dragging his leg. Um, so I do believe the energy is there and was there for me to say this is he is managing some serious health problems. I think I actually get because a lot of it slowed down kind of middle of the year. When I say slowed down, the energy I was feeling around his health, I think he did have some serious things going on that were headed in a very bad direction. But I feel like now he's managing it. Like he got some kind of help, some kind of treatment. And I'm not saying it's cancer or anything like that. I just think, maybe he wasn't handling his health that well, and now he's dialed in a little bit more. So he is managing some serious health problems, but I see him at least getting to 2028. And I know that's when we'll have the next presidential election, and then he'll have completed his second term. But yeah, I don't have him leaving office before 2028. And then when we get into 2028, and you might say Stouffer, of course, 2028, and then he'll get, hopefully, I know a lot of you people, a lot of you folks are worried that he might try to stay in. But yeah, that's the thing. He gets voted out. There's something else that is potentially happening here where we get to 2028 and once again, we're talking potentials. It hasn't happened yet. I don't see the future. The future hasn't happened. So we're just talking about energy that's already kind of there in one way or another. We're on that path. There's a potential for him to step out early, and it feels like I feel negotiation energy, and it's almost like he's avoiding something. Now, will this happen? Will he go through with this? Will we learn this? I don't know. But what it feels like, the energy feels like negotiation energy, and it's like to ensure that things aren't revealed or that he doesn't incur some kind of public humility, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm getting. So there is a real chance for him to make it to 2028 and then kind of step down before the end of his term, and then let his vice president kind of take it from there, pardon him for whatever, or hide whatever, hush, hush, hush. We negotiate something that works out well for him, and then he can kind of go do his thing. And I'm sure part of it is so that he doesn't, incur some kind of legal, more criminal uh, stuff. Anyway, all right. Thank you for if you made it this far. I know I'm kind of long-winded tonight. We'll take this down. We're no longer in the objectivity zone. I'm going to be nice now. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate. I know sometimes I say things that are hard to hear, but I stand by my predictions. I think I've got a pretty good track record with them. Of course, I get context wrong all the time. The future's, it hasn't happened yet. So we're all out here just kind of doing our best to tell you where things are headed, right? And I want to make clear, you will see ads during this content. I give every penny that I make from YouTube, whether it's from monetization, from the ads that you have to endure, or any kind of super chats or any kind of donation that I give everything to the Gary Sinise Foundation. I do not put any of it in my pocket. So I I'm hinting at something. I'm just saying, be careful when you're watching content from people, and the predictions and stuff they tell you is coming down the pike, especially when you see ads. My money doesn't go in my pocket, so I have no incentive to tell you what you want to hear just to keep you subscribed, because I give all the money away. So I'll just say that. Be careful out there. Thank you for watching. If you're not yet subscribed, I would be super super grateful for a subscription. If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. Like I say, I'm not here for anything other than to help people. And then once again, if you want a personal private reading with me, for your own stuff, are you moving? Are you getting the job? How's my health? How's my dog? Whatever. Does Johnny really love me? stoffercavens.com. You can sign up there. You can set up the reading there, pay for it, schedule it, all the good stuff. All right. And if you have any other questions about world stuff, questions at stoffercavens.com. Love you guys. Be well. Peace always.